Hey there, welcome to episode 58 of the FFS Talk audio program. I'm your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this on January 2nd, Thursday, January 2nd, in fact, 2025. Happy New Year. Hopefully. Off to a weird start here in Vegas. If you were hanging out near the Trump Hotel, I've actually been to the Trump Hotel once. It's not that great. It doesn't mean you should blow up a Cybertruck in front of it. Anyway, hopefully all this stuff gets sorted out, and it's unfortunate that there has been loss of life. One in that case, New Orleans. There are yet more violent acts today in New York somewhere. I think it was Queens. Interesting times. So let's keep it light today. We are talking about big learning thought experiments, kind of a follow-on to last week's episode. We'll see what we can make of that. If you're not familiar with the FFS Talk audio program, we talk about things that work, things that do not, and what we can do about that. What can we take that works? What can we replace that doesn't make things better? Obviously, there are some applications to that we could talk about another time for the sorts of things that are making the headlines today and yesterday. Hopefully, so FFS Talk, if you're not familiar, if you've never interacted with an Irish person, you may not know this, but if you don't know what FFS means, have that conversation with your nearest Irish colleague or friend. In the meantime, hang on a second. All right, sorry about that. Little running water. Don't want that to get louder. Anyway, yeah, do hang out with more Irish people. We all should. Hopefully wherever you found this episode of the FFS Talk audio program or any of the others, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes for today's episode, a quick summary, and then a few relevant links, including 2 shameless self-promotion links and 4. Do I have 4? Yeah, 4 relevant episode-related links. So, hopefully you're able to find that stuff. We'll run through this really quickly, and then we'll get on with the show. It is the day after New Year's for 2025, so don't want to make this run too long. We'll see how it goes. I do have some fairly strong opinions about where AI is headed. I am not an AI researcher. I don't work with AI day to day. I really actually prefer to kind of avoid it. I know it's inevitable, but I kind of like the human stuff, like doing the actual work, writing the actual words. This is really me. I'm not handing this off, although later we will play a snippet of some computer-generated conversation as one of the examples. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I'm hoping that we remain authentic human in most of our dealings for at least the next couple of decades. That might be a challenge, given the rate at which technology is approaching us from all sides. All that said, here's a summary of today's episode. Last week, it was big learning energy on this very audio program. Now we can talk a little bit about where that energy is going and should we feel good about this. Indeed, the links for today's episode, first of all, the 2 shameless self-promotion links. You do not need to spend any money at either of these sites, although you're welcome to. It will go towards coffee. I'll tell you that right now. buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo is a profile page with, I kind of use it as a free-form link tree. There's a bunch of there's some background information about me. There's a few links to my various audio programs. There are some links to some GitHub projects and whatnot. There are some links to my favorite coffee beans that I actually consume, that I actually grind up and run water through them and everything, the whole deal. Legit coffee going on. Then there's Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. Now, similar, there are text updates and so on that can happen with Ko-fi. I pronounce it Ko-fi to differentiate. It's probably coffee. Buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page. At the very top, there's a link to the posts section. In the post section, you will find the latest addition to the crew of audio productions, the Buy Me an Update micro episodes. They're basically under 5 minutes. Quick rundown of what was going on last week, what's coming up for the upcoming week. I publish them Monday mornings. So you can check that out if you like, and exclusively on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, completely free. I don't really have ads in any of my creative work at this time, and I'm aiming to keep it that way. So just keep that in mind. But if you're enjoying this episode and other episodes of the various audio programs I produce, great. If you would like to buy me a coffee, feel free. Or if you'd like to consume the text updates I post on Ko-fi.com, you can do that too, ko-fi.com/DanHugo, and they also enable financial contributions. No obligation, but just keep in mind all proceeds do go towards coffee. Coffee powers all of my endeavors. It's hard to pay rent with coffee beans, but make it work. How much electricity is being consumed? Now, I'm only touching on this a little bit as sort of a harbinger, I suppose. The Verge did an article on this. AI, electricity, energy, watts, how much goes into generative, how much goes into running the actual prompts that you type into your favorite chat or similar client, your AI, your favorite AI tools. How much energy does it take to generate that image, to create that video? Video is probably a lot. So training models takes a long time by comparison, and it takes tremendous amounts of energy. Excuse me. Last week I basically made up some numbers based on a 2,000 calorie or 2,500 calorie daily, U.S. recommended daily allowance diet. Those numbers are just, they're just guesses, and they're averages, if you like, or maybe maximums, who knows. So just to pick a number, okay, if you're consuming this many kilocalories of food energy, then we convert that over the course of 21 years. So from the moment you're born, you are a learning machine, and you're learning all aspects of everything. So you are human general intelligence. So you're learning everything. You're also creating a body. You're building a life form yourself. So there's a lot going on with all that energy, and you're moving around. You are interacting with other humans and animals and who knows what else, your surroundings. So even though there's a vast amount of energy that humans consume over the course of 21 years, it seems like a lot. But the return on investment for that energy, which first, it's coming from food. So you're not generating electricity at a nuclear power plant, for example, which is the current plan for keeping up with the energy needs of AI training in these giant data centers. But you are interacting with the world. You are growing food. You are performing tasks. You are part of the operation of the human condition. So all that energy is not just going straight towards learning. So if you can compare the learning energy large language models are using, that's all they're using. And it's a lot of it goes into heat. I really got to turn that microphone off. So how much electricity? Yeah. Example AI generated YouTube video. I kind of alluded to this. So the Physics Forums is a website. They have articles and so on. And there was an article on whether it's possible to create a unbreakable cipher. So basically encryption that cannot be broken. And there is. It's called the one-time pad, and it uses XOR. And I think that's where I started noticing, because the AI spells it out. They say XOR. And that's where because I was kind of listening to it in the background, and I'll get into this, but that was the tell. So as soon as they said XOR, I said, wait a minute, those are not people. And sure enough, so we'll talk about that briefly. Drew Gooden. Drew Gooden is a YouTuber. He's mostly human as far as I can tell. He's somewhat, I enjoy his sense of humor, but he does create interesting content. So he did a video very recently on YouTube's obsession with AI. So you can watch that. It was very topical, apropos. And then the AI slop, the Wikipedia page, of course, got to have a Wikipedia link. What is AI slop? It's the stuff that the AI is spitting out. It's images and video and text. And Drew goes into some of the stuff that YouTube's creator tools are doing. They're basically saying, hey, here's what you could respond with. So he goes through some of the ridiculous responses that the YouTube AI is generating, and he ponders where they're getting some of this from and so on. So it's actually pretty entertaining, but also a little bit alarming. AI slop. Yeah. So those are the links for today's episode. Let's get on with the show. Power consumption. So last week we talked a bit about the amount of power used to train AI models in recent times compared to raising a human over 21 years. It's an odd comparison, but it is important as we see headlines and hype around AI and AGI, that's artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence. So AGI is where, you're not saying, oh, if I want to generate an image, I go to DALL-E, and if I want to send an email, I go to ChatGPT or Claude, or if I want to write some code, I use Copilot or Devin or et cetera, right? So an AGI would basically be the human equivalent, right? You don't go to, you go to a person and you ask them something. They might know the answer if you go to a specialized human and ask them a medical question or a computer programming question. So really, the notion of AGI will be superhuman, supposedly. They should be able to do it all. What we are getting for this astronomical power number, these astronomical power numbers, if I can, I got to fire the guy who writes my scripts. They're not really scripts, they're notes, but compared to the results of a human consuming energy for 21 years and longer, of course, in the latter case, we get an actual human. So the 21 years, and that's only like birth through typical 4-year college, right? Could be more, could be less, could be more energy, less energy. So this is just a dart thrown at a dartboard. Okay, 21 years, so much energy consumed. But at the end of that, you get an actual human being with some fundamental knowledge. Maybe they pursued a particular focus in a college degree pursuit. So maybe they're an engineer like I am. Maybe they're a physics focus. Maybe they're going to go on to get a PhD and become a physics professor or researcher. Who knows? Who can say? But 21 years was a reasonable pick. And for all the energy that we consume, mostly as food, some of it's from the sun. If you want your vitamin D, hopefully you do. But we're generally speaking, we're consuming food of some sort. And that's where our energy comes from. So we're not sitting outside a power plant absorbing energy. Lightning bolts are not entering our fingertips, right? So we are part of the ecology of the planet. We're consuming energy. We're doing our part in the machinery of the world and so on. So AI training models are consuming this energy, and then they're spitting out numbers. The Verge article goes into the difference between training and using AI models. There is a huge difference. Training models takes a while, takes immense amounts of input data. That's why they're basically running out of internet. There used to be a joke many years ago, I've reached the end of the internet, but that's actually happening apparently. It is important to note that your home computer with even a decent graphics processing unit, GPU, game video card, accelerated 3D video card, may not be anywhere near as fast running data through models as are huge cloud installations, which use plenty of energy in aggregate to run your ChatGPT prompts. So in order to get like a reasonable level of performance, a pretty quick, couple of seconds turnaround time, you still need a lot of compute power. The amount of energy used during those few seconds is a fraction of what's used to train the model, but it's still, it might be more than you're using at home. Probably. Even when AI is running on your mobile device, maybe you have the latest TPU, tensor processing, all kinds of NPU, TPU, GPU, CPU, a lot of PU. Maybe you have the latest TPU hardware on your Pixel device or whatever Siri's got going on in the or whatever Apple's using now in their iPhones and whatnot. Does it get warm? Does your GPU card in your computer, if you have one, require big fans and a separate power connector and an oversized power supply, and it still dumps heat out the back of your computer, and maybe you're liquid cooling, and because it's a lot of heat. That's a lot of inefficiency. I don't know if you've noticed when you're writing an email or when you're balancing your checkbook, if people still do that, or if you're doing anything that requires deep thought, your own human general intelligence. Does your head get warm? Does it even get hot? There was an article recently that's maybe tangentially related that the human brain operates at like 10 bits per second or something. I don't know how they arrived at that. I just saw the headline and I said, yeah, whatever. The human brain is massively parallel. And so I don't know if that's some net or if they follow, like a net output of how fast data is moving through your brain entirely through all the parallel pathways, or if that's like they picked one pathway and how fast data, whatever. You're not going to change that anytime soon. So good to know, not critical to know. But does your head get warm? I hope not. Data center scale GPU farm. So that means like an entire building full of GPUs. If you look at Colossus, which we talked about last week, which is the Elon Musk XAI, it's 100,000 NVIDIA GPUs, and they want to grow it to, I think, 300,000, 200 or 300,000. So this is big. They're tens or really hundreds of thousands of times the power and heat that are used in your computer at home, and certainly many times that if you're comparing a single cell phone, right? So a single cell phone is probably using less than half, sometimes way less than half, a normal, like a laptop. Even if you probably compare a Apple Silicon iPhone to M4 laptop or whatever. These are fractions of the energy used by one GPU, and now multiply that by 100,000 or 200,000 or 300,000 times whatever the scalar is for one, right? So it might be half for an iPhone. So double that, either way, it's a tremendous amount of energy, and there's a tremendous amount of heat that's getting dumped off of these machines. There's a data center here in Vegas. It's called the Switch. It's a resource that was built around the Enron internet days, when Enron was going to do with internet access what they did with electricity in California and elsewhere. So they basically wanted all the internet to run through their data centers. Then they got in trouble, so Enron went away, and their internet infrastructure that they were building, which would bring all of the internet through, is it Paradise or Enterprise? It's basically just down in the southern part of the greater Vegas area in Clark County, not in Vegas, not in the city of Las Vegas. So the Switch has the entire internet flowing through it. And I have been in the Switch when I was working with Intel. Everything in there is air cooled, so you can literally feel the heat coming off of the stacks of machines. They have this little hallway between the machines and each rack. So it's like a service hallway, and it's just belching out hot air. So all the air-cooled systems, the hot air is getting drawn out of the server rooms, and no water allowed. Why? Because water is a point of failure. So there's tons of heat, and these are just normal computers running. So who knows what's going on in these GPU farms? It's got to be quite warm. Air fryer? Nothing. So what about AI without telling you? What does that really mean? So it used to be a year, maybe two, maybe a year and a half ago, something. YouTube really wanted you to label your content if you were using AI, if you were generating voices, or if the images were not real, and so on. So I was flipping through my YouTube recommendations the other day, and I encountered that unbreakable encryption video. So I encountered the video first, and then I tracked down the article, and so I have a link to the article in the link section, the article it was based on. So theoretically, today we're going to talk about an article that appeared in our. Okay, sure. So I had it, just playing the audio, which is an audio only, so there's no video that goes with it, even though it's a YouTube video. Even though it is not explicitly linked in the YouTube video description, so I had to go track it down, which was weird. And then the video is embedded in the article, so you can do it the other way around like that. The article is not very new. I think it was from 2016, but the topic is much older than that. So the one-time pad is a big thing. So when I initially played the video before I tracked down the article, I was just playing the video, and I was not focusing on it, so it was just playing. I sort of got the feeling that this was not a real conversation. It was very performative. It did not sound genuine. Like I said, when I heard the XOR, I said, wait a minute. A normal encryption discussion or in general, it's not XOR, it's exclusive or XOR, right? Exclusive OR. That's a logical operation, combinatorial logic and all that. So you would never say XOR. You would say XOR or exclusive. For the purposes of a podcast, you would say exclusive OR. And then they describe it with light switches, which is, it's okay. But for any inputs, if they are all true, then, wait, what is it? Exclusive OR, either or, but not both. So one or the other can be true, but if both are true or both are false, then the output is false. So exclusive OR. So if there's 3 or 4 or 5 inputs, they can't all be true. They can't all be false, or they can't all be. If they're all true, then the output is false. So there's exclusive NOR, which inverts that, and so on. I think I got that right. So exclusive OR operations come up a lot in encryption. So there's a transitive property of exclusive OR where you can exclusive OR things twice and you get the original input as that. But anyway, it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat the way it works. I won't get into that here. So I scrubbed back to the beginning and they didn't introduce themselves. Nobody had any names. They didn't mention the article specifically. And I said, okay, well, this is very clearly fake, generated. I mean, it's a real conversation. It's just not happening between humans. So to confirm this, I went to Google's Notebook LM, which advertises this feature where it can generate a conversation based on an article or other text input or whatever. I mean, it's a Swiss Army knife of non-human engagement. I generated a conversation from the very same article. So I pasted in the link. It read the article, generated some audio, which I'll play a little snippet of here so you can compare. It's not quite 30 seconds. I think it's 22 seconds. I just pulled out something from the beginning so you can hear both voices. It's not, I didn't want to go too long with this, but it's not very detailed. So you're just going to hear the two people talking. Two people, it's just a quick sample though. Clearly this is what they did. The voices even sound very similar, if not the same. So you can give it a listen. I'm going to insert that audio now.
And the implications of this are huge.
Yeah.
Especially in our increasingly digital world.
It's a question that has haunted cryptographers for centuries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea of a code.
Right.
So strong that even the most powerful computers can't crack it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the holy grail of information security.
Exactly. And it's interesting when you think about history.
Now do note, if you hopefully you enjoyed that, do note, my version was about 10 minutes longer than their published version, for what that's worth. I'm obviously not going to make you sit through. It's about 24 minutes and theirs is about 14. The generated conversations will vary with each generation process. I think they introduce a non-deterministic element or two, so you end up with a more organic outcome. They may have taken steps to keep theirs closer to the published length, so maybe they didn't want to go for over 20 minutes. Maybe they wanted to keep it closer to 15. Who knows what they did. I did none of those things. So I just generated some audio first try, saved it, pulled out 22 seconds or so of example. So you can give theirs a listen. The link is in the link section and you can see what you think. And in general, since you know that this is an AI generated piece of content, if you do take the time to listen to it in its entirety, or even just more than 20 seconds, you can wonder to yourself, is this good? Is this what the future holds? And am I excited by this? So I had the link to AI Slop, the Wikipedia page, and AI Slop has been here for a while. There have been some headlines of late that Facebook will begin using AI accounts. So they're going to create actual AI users. There'll be Facebook users that are completely fake. They're AI generated and there's nothing human about them. So there'll be AI accounts on Facebook and Instagram, apparently. I had not heard that initially, but Instagram posts, or I'm going to guess they're going to start by commenting on things, but there might be artificial images generated to create the sense that it's a real person posting on Instagram. So they may have some sort of topical photography or who knows what. Facebook, they can post random things to their timeline. They can create, who knows? Who knows what's possible? Everything is possible. What are they actually going to do? Who knows? They will engage their human users with posts and perhaps actual interaction like comments and replies, and who knows where that rabbit hole goes. So they may, maybe they'll be in groups, or maybe they'll join the little Facebook community infrastructure to participate in conversations to keep things going, right? The only way Facebook makes money, or Meta really, is through engagement. So you got to have non-stop engagement. So if robots can enter the fray, keep it stirred up a little bit, that's what's been happening on platforms like Twitter for years, right? The bots. Drew Gooden's dive into the YouTube creator tools that are pushing AI-generated interactions is a pretty good sampling of what we might be looking forward to. YouTube is already ingesting ridiculous amounts of video every minute. According to a quick Google search, it's about 500 hours of content uploaded every minute. Every minute. And that's a lot. And it is entirely possible that this is still not enough for YouTube's ad inventory. Now remember, ad inventory, those are places where they can insert ads. Ad inventory has to be acceptable content, right? So you have to make sure it's not talking about all their forbidden words and topics. It has to be advertiser-friendly content. So some fraction of 500 hours per minute is advertiser-friendly. So you want to make sure you have interaction with those pieces of content that are advertiser-friendly, and then so if you do take the time to watch Drew Gooden's video, and it was pretty entertaining, but also concerning. He has a certain wit about his presentations. Is AI generated content, and in his case, AI generated or encouraged engagement with his viewers, for example, the way forward? Are we going to be basically participating in these contrived conversations and interacting with things that don't really exist, created or published or posted by people who don't exist? We have been talking about bot interactions on social media for years. And again, Twitter getting no small part of that attention. Russian bots. And surely we have all interacted in some way with automated systems, autoresponders, production by street, emergency vehicle. I assume you can hear that. If not, good for you. Autoresponders and text chats. If you've ever had to contact Amazon support, it's only getting worse. Luckily, it does start off by like, hey, you're talking to a chatbot or something silly, but it's useless. Now we have overt announcements and clearly apparent deployments of AI as human equivalent to content creators and interlocutors. You will be speaking with, conversing with, interacting with, responding to, getting responses from artificial intelligence. Will you know at every turn that they're not people? That's a good question. But the announcements have been made. We are now, without equivocation, we are going to be dumping artificial intelligence agents into the conversation. See how that works out. And by the way, if the Notebook LM example is an indication, first of all, you'll be able to spot these things now, but a year from now, are they going to not make the mistakes about, and you can hear it now in computer voices, they'll mispronounce words, they will emphasize the wrong parts of it, so it doesn't sound natural, and so you get a little uncanny valley, right? Like, that's not normal, that's not right. So you can sort of spot them now, but it's like the Terminator, right? They get better and better, and eventually you can't spot them. The environment. So we're talking about thought experiments, so let's set up the environment. There have been claims for years, only more in the last 2 years or so, maybe 3 years, that AI will either take away jobs, increase human efficiency, enable humans to have more free time to pursue creativity and quality of life. That means taking away your jobs. Or anything. It could be anything. AI is overhyped, AI is underhyped, and to be feared, and so on. Who can say exactly? Now, it's interesting to note, if you do watch the news, the people that are most excited about AI are the ones who are going to replace humans in their factories, or they're developing the technology, so they intend to get wealthy from the technology. So they're either developing the technology as a product, or they're developing the technology as a product and then eventual profit tools so that they can reduce their human workforce. You think H-1B is a ruse to underpay qualified employees? Hang on. Given what we have today, and by the way, I've worked with plenty of people in my career with H-1B visas in America. They're very talented. They're nice people. They are almost certainly being underpaid and undervalued, taking advantage of the system. Hopefully, they've ended up benefiting in some way, being a part of, for example, the Silicon Valley.com era and so on. So, all the way through today. That's a little side note. Given what we have today, what has been announced, let us assume that we are all going to be exposed to more and more AI every day. That's, what is it? Philip DeFranco says today is the worst or least capable that AI will ever be. So every day you encounter artificial intelligence products or tools or interactions or whatever the case may be, you are encountering AI in the worst level of performance that it will ever be moving forward. That's kind of an interesting way to look at it, but probably true. You may be able to tell the difference this week, but what about next week? What about next year? Text, audio, images, video. Will you know? I wrote, will you now? Will you know what you are consuming? What you are interacting with? What will you be able to determine? And will you be concerned about it? Will you know and will you care if you are interacting with a computer, a person, some mixture of both? Sam Altman of OpenAI has completed some phase of a universal basic income experiment. I don't know. I think it was a universal income experiment or basic, whatever they called it. These have taken place in different places using different methodologies over the decade or so. Andrew Yang ran on the principle of a UBI, universal basic income. There are some pros and cons as each experiment has been presented. It's difficult to model an entire economy powered by UBI. You can do it in little small patches, but yeah, we'll see. Apparently his experiment was reasonably successful. I want to say the total amount of money in this little microeconomic experiment was about $60 million, if I'm remembering correctly. But basically, this is a social safety net at scale. So everybody gets money right up front to enable humans to live some version of a life with a stipend of some kind, replacing normal income or really normal earnings potential, which would presumably go to our AI and robotic successors. So when you no longer have a job, you've been replaced. And so whatever money was going to go to you doesn't really have to go to AI, doesn't have to go to robotic successors. Or if it does, it's a fraction, right? You're not paying for food, you're not paying for housing and health insurance and so on. You're just paying for maintenance, software updates, continued development. If you are the quote unquote employer. And by the way, I've had this, and it's not my own, but I'm on the side of like humans being investors in this infrastructure. So you should actually be able to benefit just like the employers do from having this robotic and artificial intelligence workforce. You could essentially look at it as like a farm style economy where the farmer would have, the farming family would have a large family, a lot of kids to help out on the farm. So you could similarly raise your AI, raise your robotics. Essentially you enter the economy with your robots and with your artificial intelligence. Maybe you're training the AI maybe, however it would work, right? A little hand wave here. But at least it would allow people to compete or participate in general in the economy without having essentially what's a fixed income. So the money goes straight into the pockets of the wealthy owners in this model that they're presuming we will end up with. So give people a little bit of money to keep them living and spending, right? You got to spend money in the economy to keep it going. Otherwise, why bother having robots? Who will buy the goods and services if there is no money and no humans around to buy and spend the money and so on? So the loop of the circle of life, the loop need not close if there's no reason. So the experimental setup for our thought experiment: what happens if you are succeeded or replaced with a modern technology of some sort so that you have no job prospects? So doing what you're doing now, kind of like the Industrial Revolution, but it'll be the AI revolution. So there was a time when if you were in agriculture, then automated farming machines. So these didn't come out all at once, but you'd end up with machinery that could replace the repetitive work of normal people. So you had fewer people working on farms. You had more automation. Eventually, you'd have these tilling machines and so on. These are industrial size, and now they're even self-driving. So you don't even need to drive these things. And if you have super farms, you can have multiple machines that are going up and down the farm rows. They're examining the plants for parasites and illnesses. They're checking water. They're checking the overall health of the crop. They're eventually going to harvest the crop. All this stuff is being automated, right? So the Industrial Revolution continues to march forward. There are fewer needs for humans on farms. It doesn't mean there's no need for humans on farms. That's definitely not the case. But certainly the Industrial Revolution is very apparent if you look through the history of agriculture. So do you retrain? Do you learn some new skill? Do you learn something new? Try to get a job doing something not yet taken by a robot or some form of artificial intelligence. Do you give in to a fixed universal basic income or universal income or base, whatever they call it, and live the life of a cog in the automated economy? That's an editorialization, but yeah. Universal basic income is going to keep you alive. It's going to be enough money to do your thing and to spend money. And guess what happens when you know that everyone is making a universal basic income? Everything will be priced to take the maximum possible fraction of that universal basic income. That's why small scale experiments aren't really useful. Just grossly speaking, if you know everybody in a city is making $10,000 a month, that's extremely optimistic. But if you know everybody's making $10,000 a month, then suddenly rent can be $8,000 a month or whatever, right? So suddenly you need to have a lot of price caps and controls. And so the notion of capitalism kind of goes out the window at that point, and it becomes a very tightly controlled, no longer, like you don't really have any economic mobility at that point. You're living on a fixed income and prices have to be controlled accordingly. And then that's about it. And then if you're rich, you're rich. More editorializing. Between now and then, when this the end of the world happens, will you give in to the prevalence of AI interaction in our day-to-day engagements? Commenting on your photos or microblog posts. Are you going to get into conversations or fights, flame wars, as they used to call them, with a robot? Generating original content, inviting your interactions? Are you going to comment on some post and then you're like, oh, this whole thing was generated by an AI? They're going to send you emails. They're going to be calling you. It might sound like a familiar voice. The email might sound very conversational. Just the other day, I received a text message in Chinese, simplified Chinese text characters. And so I translated, of course. The translation tools are many and useful. And it was a friendly message and something about how are you doing? So I usually totally blow these off, but I was like, So I said, who is this? And so probably a person said, oh, this is the name. Don't tell me you don't remember me. And I said, no, I'm afraid I don't. And I said, it's possible you have the wrong number. Oh, I'm really sorry. Well, next time I'm in LA, I'll buy you a coffee. And I said, well, I'm not even out in LA. So very clearly the wrong person. Happy New Year. And then they disappeared. So was it a real person? Who knows? Was it somebody trying to begin a pig butchering interaction? Maybe. Was it a completely automated message that was, who knows? Who knows at all? And so this is only the beginning of the beginning when it comes to that kind of stuff. And as Philip tells us, don't forget, it's the worst it's ever been today. It only gets better tomorrow. So are you using AI tools today, though? You may or may not have advanced robotics at your disposal. So maybe not robots so much, maybe. But you may be using ChatGPT or something similar to write emails or reply to emails or create blog posts or add copy for your business or something. Maybe you edit or create images or even video. I do use the Canva AI tools occasionally, maybe twice a month, maybe 3 times a month, maybe. Mostly I take the clip art approach and assemble my cover art for my audio programs. So I'm okay with that. Again, I mostly use clip art, so it's images that are already available, or I edit them or move them around and things like this. I'm not graphically inclined. I have no aesthetic, so I try to achieve something that I'm aiming for. hope for the best. Occasionally, I'll use an AI generated image if it suits the what I'm trying to accomplish. If it does what I'm trying, you know what I mean. So I can't, but I'm not an artist, and I'm not creating artistic products. These are merely cover art for the audio program. The audio program is me speaking words that I have created, and occasionally included typos in. So every word that I type into you can call it a script, you can call it notes, or it's more of an outline. These are my words, so this is the important part of the audio program. The cover art, okay, maybe it gets some attention. The thumb, as people call it on the YouTube side of the world. So I don't feel too bad about that, but really if I had more artistic ability, I might be able to do something on my own. But have you jumped in, both feet, so to speak? Are you totally in or leaning into these new modern day tools? Are you using them to remove yourself from your own work efforts? Are you cutting down on the amount of time you have to spend? Maybe you're removing yourself completely. Oh, I'm saving so much time. I can do the work of 5 people. That means you're not hiring 4 people, and you are removing yourself from the economy. So initially it seems fine, but okay, what happens if you got to go? If you got to scale up? A full content creation pipeline maybe is what you're working on to generate audiobooks or headless YouTube videos. And you're making actual money on these things. Now you don't have to share it with anyone. You just have to pay for your tools. I guess that's okay. So the thought experiment, and this is where we'll end today's episode, so these are things that you should think about. And perhaps one day we will have a guest or 2 or 10 on 10 episodes. Maybe we should have an audio discussion with Notebook LM. I've toyed with doing that, but I don't know. I don't know about that. I think it would be annoying. Notebook LM has an interactive mode, so maybe we'll have to see what's going on with that. Is AI, artificial intelligence, a tool or force multiplier, like a bicycle, right? Do you use it to make what you're doing more effective, more time efficient, better outputs? My cover art example, is it doing something that you're not able to do yourself? Are you replacing a skill that you don't quite have with AI? Are you augmenting a skill you already have with AI? Right? I could hire a cover artist, but I'm not. So I'm paying $12 a month or something to Canva to have all their resources. Or is AI a human replacement? Right? So I've kind of given an example where I'm replacing the possibility of hiring someone or outsourcing my cover art creation. Are you using AI tools instead of hiring a person? Or are you using AI tools to multiply your own effectiveness, your own output? And you can argue which side of the line each of the examples or what you're actually doing. Should I be hiring somebody for this? Or could I be hiring somebody for this? Or am I capable of doing this? I'm capable of creating artwork. It wouldn't be very nice. It wouldn't be as good. AI generated art is also sometimes not as good as real images and so on. So it's a toss up, I suppose. Are you going to be collaborating? Are you going to be collaborating with, I almost said a collaborator. Are you going to be collaborating with robots and artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, especially in the workplace and out in the normal day-to-day world? Or are normal humans destined to be paid to consume, to keep the economic wheels turning while we watch generated TikTok videos? So in other words, is content creation going to be a distraction to keep us busy spending our universal basic income while robots and artificial general intelligence build and make and develop things for us to buy? Do you suppose you can come up with a way to pivot your own revenue generation methods? Maybe you have a day job. Maybe you're developing AI tools yourself. Maybe you're a content creator. Content in this case being, in the game. Maybe you're just an artist or an author. Maybe you're just doing classic human things, making art, writing creative works, or maybe document. It doesn't have to be fiction. Maybe you're a newspaper writer, a reporter. I was going to say newspaper writer. Are you a reporter? Are you a journalist? Are you doing human things? So whatever you do now, are you thinking about pivoting to attempt to outrun, so to speak, the possibility of technology replacing humans in workplaces and jobs in general. So do you think what you're doing today will eventually give way to some robot or artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence? So are you planning to pivot into something else? Are you going to try to outrun what's coming, what is allegedly coming? And finally, are you pondering this now? Is this too far into the future to even worry about? Or are you already resigned to our eventual demise as at the robotic hands of our new overlords? That's a reference to a meme. If you don't know the overlord thing, then I won't go into it. But essentially, the whole notion of this thought experiment is none of this is happening today, as in, or I should say, it hasn't happened today. You can argue that it is absolutely happening today. You can argue that the precursors to it happening sometime in the future are happening today. Or you can think, this is all overblown and it's not going to get that bad. Or maybe, the artificial intelligence and robotics, they're going to be our tools. We're going to, just like the Industrial Revolution, it only added to the need for a human workforce. So do you believe the future is human replacement or human augmentation? I don't mean turning you into a cyborg, although maybe that's something you're thinking about. Who knows? So that is the thought experiment based on everything we've talked about today. What do you think? Where are things going to go, and what are you going to do ahead of time to be ready for whatever may come? Ponder. And listen to that encryption, the universal cipher, unbreakable cipher, whatever the title is. The conversation, you don't even have to listen, just listen to more than 22 seconds. Listen to the first couple of minutes. It is both concerning and somewhat humorous. But again, to quote Phil DeFranco one last time, the state of AI today is the worst that it will ever be, ever again. So who knows what tomorrow and next week and next year will bring from the likes of Notebook LM and ChatGPT 03 or 05, whatever they'll be on, and all the other stuff that's coming. All right, that's about it. Thank you so much for listening. As usual, have a happy new year. Have a happy and safe new year. These first 2 days have been troubling. Maybe people should be creating AI tools to make the world a safer place, not a place that doesn't require humans to work anymore. What happens when humans aren't being productive? I don't know, there's 400 million guns floating around in America. That can't be good. So I'll end on that positive note. Take care. Cheers.